thing because the aspect of is designed to entities, not here.
At a Witcher Buddy game, we love casting spells. This song is sponsored by the Shadow Government. Legalize nuclear bombs.
When you're doing a tack reload, this is going to fall down. So go ahead and do your tack reload. Shut it down, close the flap, and then you're business. That's how you're going to do a tack reload with a double stack chest rig, or in this case, the Spectre. I hope that's helpful.
All right, guys. Well, sorry for that intro. I was trying to meme around, really try to draw you back to where a majority of the gun tube is, or, you know, tactical people on YouTube with very impractical and poorly thought out loadouts, in my unprofessional opinion. As you could tell by the title, this video is a discussion about sustainment equipment in the field. Before we go too much further, there are timestamps on screen if any part or aspect interests you. This video was requested by a viewer, and the comment summarizes pretty much what sustainment equipment do you need in the field, what type of tools, what brands, and etc. Throughout my life, this question has been very vital to me. It's always been on my mind, and I've seen it as a rite of passage for preparedness and long-term survival. To give my mindset, I'd like to tell a story from 3 to 4 years ago, back in 2022. So 2022, we can all remember, COVID hit, the schools were locked down, and we saw what the government would and could do to people, as well as people's true characters. During these times, we also had riots, protests, lots of death and chaos. I know for many people, this was an awakening point to how uncivil society can get. Just around this time, I remember I got my hunting license. My dad had gotten a new gun. I think I had gotten one of my first main hunting guns, and we started to go hunting again, small and big game. Hunting had truly re-sparked my love for the outdoors. I remember it felt great being able to patrol around, especially in camo. Felt very cool doing what I had always read about. And so just around this time, with a few of my buddies, we had started to go camping again. And so the loadout you can see before you is what I had at this time during this camping trip. I had my Condor Recon rig. It wasn't even as built out as this. Back during that time, I didn't have my hydration carrier. I didn't have my sustainment pouches on the side. I didn't have my tourniquet. I didn't have anything real for medical. Of course, I had this pack as well. I remember I'd wanted an axe to collect firewood, but I didn't know what I should get, and so I had my parents go to Home Depot. They picked up a Maul splitting axe, and it worked. I mean, it did work to split. It's heavy. It's not what I would carry now, but it worked. Not pictured is a small Gerber hatchet that I had. That worked very well throughout the trip. And of course, I had this huge pack in front of you. This is much bigger than even the large Alice pack, probably bigger than the large Molly. It just depends. Inside, I had kept paracord and tent stakes, fire starter, spare clothes, a towel, spare uniform, one MRE over there. Inside, I had a Dutch oven, a map of the area, just a map book, not printed out topo maps. In another, this is a cooking stove that folds out. All of my gear, I didn't know exactly what I needed back then, and I tried to take a lot of this from Grand Thumb and other people similar to him on the internet, but it wasn't what I needed, and I didn't know what I needed. Up top here, I'll show you one thing that I took from Grand Thumb and truly wish I never listened to, was that all I needed to survive in the field was protein powder, tortilla chips, and peanut butter. That was a disgusting meal, and I'm glad that my parents had brought good food, good steaks. I had this horribly outdated and heavy first aid kit and dried milk. I didn't know what I needed for sustainment, and especially for a sleep system, something I've only recently started to tackle. I remember that night, it was a little hard to fall asleep. And during the night, I got 3 to 4 hours of sleep tops. I didn't know why. I was freezing out there. but I knew some part of my gear wasn't working, but I forced myself through the night. I remember at one point I had woken up at 3 a.m. and I was just thinking to myself, trying to fall back asleep, that however rough it was out here, it was so much nicer, beautiful, funner than being cooped up in a school with a mask, being yelled at by a middle-aged teacher. And I had truly understood, what society could be outside of the bureaucracy and the system. And it was a great motivator. I know that the rest of the trip went pretty well. We had some good food afterwards, like I was talking about, steaks, burgers, um, good fishing, good hunting, overall great times. And since then, it's sparked something in me, which is the main reason for this YouTube channel. I've questioned myself when it comes to food, water, ammo, medicine, tools. I've thought, how will I keep myself alive if I ever have to stay out in the woods? If our system ever falls and, the end of the world as we know it happens, just theoretical circumstances. What will I do? And so this video isn't going to be the end all be all. I wish it could be, but it won't. But it will go over the basic requirements for life, being food, water, air, shelter, heat, as well as some tools that you should have. A little bit on medical, not too much. How to harness and use electricity out in the field, as well as ammunition, foot care, and hygiene. Okay, so getting into this, food. I've always been a big proponent of MREs, whether it's military ones, FEMA ones, whether it's meals from Bass Pro Shops. I think that they're a good idea, especially out in the field, unless you can dedicate somebody to creating meals, carrying meat, eggs, cheese on them. But for the individual, I think that MREs are a good idea. Here are the FEMA. That's the military Sopico. Here's the FEMA humanitarian daily rations. And so just a little bit from my personal experience. The Sopico meals, it's usually 60 for 12. I think that these are worth it. They're not bad at all. Some people get constipated from them. I don't. If you are eating these, I would meal plan. Make sure that while you're eating the main course, you also have the crackers, jam, and cookies on the side. I will say that the built-in slushy or smoothie is very, very good. On the other end of the spectrum, the FEMA MREs. These are 30 for 12, so about half the price. I don't know if it says it on here, but these are low sodium and vegetarian meals. I didn't notice that when I first bought them, and I wish I did. I've ate 2 or 3 of mine out of the whole pack of 12, and they will keep you alive, but they don't taste good. I know that they're very, very sweet, sickeningly sweet. Of course, they have low sodium, and they don't have meat. So in the field, in my opinion, they're kind of depressing to eat. I would definitely supplement them with meat on the side, but overall, MREs, if you can get them, they will work for short-term operations and in the field. If you want to save weight and space, you should strip your MREs by cutting them open, removing and repacking what you do and don't need, and then duct taping them back together. I think that's a good idea. Aside from MREs, if you just want a quick snack in the field, or if you're entirely against the idea of MREs, dried snacks work very well. In all of my Alice belts, I keep snacks. You can't really tell. We've got bananas, blueberries, strawberries in here. This is from when I had first started. This is 3 to 4 years old now. I think it still tastes decently fine. A lot of the flavor has fallen off into dust, but it does work. And whenever it runs out, I usually just try to supplement it with fresh fruit. It works well. Of course, in the field, you can carry beef jerky as well. It's a little smelly, but that is a truly good motivator. If you can pack beforehand, I would say, pack your sandwiches, burgers, maybe stuff for the morning, depending on what you want to eat, in an insulated bag and hand that off to one of your people. In regards to cooking food, if your enemy could even possibly have night vision or thermals, you should know that campfires are stupid bright. As I'm sure we all know, You can see them with your naked eye during the night, and the smoke stands out during the day. Some people have come up with tactical fires such as the Dakota fire or the Swedish torch. Swedish torch is smaller, of course, and more compact, but they both have a large thermal signature, and especially in case of the Dakota fire, it takes a long time to set up and a lot of physical space. I'll give a deeper dive into heat later on in the video, but you can use S-bit stoves, alcohol stoves, sterno, chemical burners, or full-on fires to cook meals if needed. Or simply, if your thermal signature is that big of a threat, you can eat most meals cold. I would recommend, if you have your squad set up, that you should have one cook throughout the entire squad, especially if you're at a big platoon size level. But every individual person, in my opinion, should carry a mess kit. This is a mess kit. Specifically, this one's Boy Scout. I don't think your brand really matters all that much as long as it's not plastic. You know, anything will work. It has your pot that you can use as a bowl with a handle. I keep matches, oil, seasoning inside, as well as tin foil for if I need to wrap up meat and cook it. I've had meals out of this. It tastes pretty darn good. But I would say a mess kit is essential for cooking food, so you don't carry too much out into the field like the Dutch oven that I'd previously shown. And I will say that for drinks, if you want something to lift your spirits like coffee or hot chocolate, a canteen cup is very useful. Of course, you can also use this for boiling water. And what some people do is carry two canteen cups, one for food and the other one they will put their shampoos, conditioners, body wash in here, wash it around, and wash themselves off with it. Though I'll go into specifics on hygiene a little later in the video. And so for long-term sustainment, you can lightly smoke meat to preserve it for longer. Root cellars will also work to cool and preserve your food. And I'm sure the bushcrafting crowd knows this, but you can try making pemmican, spelled Pemmican, for your operations. It is a combination of dried fruit and dried meat that lasts a while. Okay guys, one thing that I wanted to make note of that I didn't during the original recording is that you should set up a cycle so you cannot be caught off guard while you're eating. As well, after you're done eating, make sure that you pack up your trash. This is so that the enemy cannot ID you and figure out what type of foods that you're bringing into the field as well as where you are. In many people's minds, there's an easy way out for food collection. They believe that you're going to be able to hunt, fish, forage, and steal to survive. Though, in reality, for the hunters and fishers among us, you'll know that you can go entire seasons without seeing animals, days without catching fish, and you'll know that the processing equipment wears out quick. On the other hand, if every other person around you is also trying to hunt, fish, or steal, they're going to be wary of you and they'll consider you a marauder. You will die hungry because you didn't plan beforehand. As we saw back during the Great Depression, in many areas of the United States, animals were pushed to the edge of extinction, some only returning in the 1960s to where they were once native. With this all being said, I would still leave caches with equipment to hunt and fish, as well as small game and fishing traps. Like we all know, water is not only essential for life, but for operational efficiency. Even if you go on a hike, water is essential to keep you moving and motivated. Though, the issue with water is its weight. After I'd gone from that big pack, I built out my Alice pack. As you can see, I have two 2-quart canteen carriers. This is my personal canteen right now. That's why it's not in here. So I'd have 4 quarts here. And then I'd have two 2-quart canteens on my belt. This came up to 6 quarts overall, or 12 pounds. I didn't notice it until I thought about it. That was a lot of weight that I could replenish in the field and that I didn't need. The standard load of 2 quarts is roughly 4 pounds on its own. So unless your entire load is water, you cannot carry all of what you need into the field for extended operations without carrying a lot of weight. But to stay alive and stay hydrated, my method is the following: water collection, purification, and storage. So for water collection, in my AO, there are many streams and lakes. And when you're deciding where you want your patrol base or LPOP, I would say to have it in relative vicinity to a water body, not too close, but not too far. This is so that you can have a patrol go out, provide near and far security, while somebody collects water in either canteens, water drums, insulated water containers, even sealed containers that look like gas cans. Carry or collect your water, make sure that you filter it off when you put it in so that large particles aren't in there, and then you can run out and go to purification later. If you do have a long-term base or presence, you could set up buckets to collect water using the dew or the rainwater, but this method should not be used for patrols as it has a decently big footprint and is very slow to see results. If you do have access to vehicles running in your AO, they can carry lots of water, and I believe that they should for your troops, whether that's at supply points or restocking caches. All collection efforts for food and water will be difficult in a desert terrain because of lack of water and wildlife. This is why a lot of the insurgent wars in the Middle East were fought using vehicles near towns, because sustainment is just difficult in the desert. Though you can go to canals and hunt off of small game to stay alive. Lastly, in the winter seasons, you can collect snow and melt it later for water. Now that you've collected your water, you should start on water purification back at your base. Depending on what you've packed, you'll have access to a lot of things like water filters, iodine tablets, and simply boiling your water. In my opinion, boiling water is most sustainable because all that you need is a fire. Though, what I do believe is the safest is filters. And so depending on your situation, filters such as the Sawyer Mini, which is what I personally use, may not last too long out in the field. I'll show you right here. This is my water purification. I have an S-Bit tablet, my Sawyer Mini, the bag that it came with, and matches. Over time, you may have to clean that out. And I know some people prefer gravity bags to filter out their water. I don't, simply because you'd have to have it hanging. I like this, it's instant. You can just manually get it done by squeezing the water through the filter. Iodine tablets also work fine, but make sure that you follow the instructions on the tablet so you do not overdose. I know on my personal fighting load, let's find them, I carry these 2 tablets. I bought them as a combo for about $12. So this one treats the chemical taste that comes from the iodine. This one simply treats your water. You need both. Well, you at least need the iodine. You don't need the taste remover. As a final note with water purification, make sure that whatever container you're using, that you also clean the threads. Otherwise, bacteria can live on there and recontaminate your water source. And so finally, within the entirety of water, we have water storage. On your person, you can use canteens, Nalgene bottles, hydration bladders, whatever you find that works best for you. I've never personally tried Nalgenes, though I know they work. I just use my canteens with my canteen cups. And I do think hydration bladders are fine, but I just feel like they get too squished on my body and they trap too much heat. In your bases, you can use water drums, military issue drums, just any clean watertight container. And within the field for resupply, you can try caches, vehicles. Just make sure that you water or recycle out your water regularly so it doesn't grow mold or leak through the container. I know personally I have an anecdote from one of our recent camping trips. This wasn't any field training exercise. It was purely camping and relaxation. We had gone up to a cabin. We were hanging out for about 3 days. We'd done some light hiking. We had built shelters. And on the last night that we were there, we had burgers and hot dogs. The next morning, I had woken up at 6 a.m. to the sound of vomit from one of our group members. They had thrown up many times within the hour, and by the time the hour was over, they were still shaky, cold, and they couldn't move their fingers. Us being guys, we want to help each other out, and so we immediately tried to diagnose him. At first, we had thought of food poisoning. The previous night's food could have been tainted or improperly cooked, but we had ruled this out because the rest of us were fine. The vomit was liquid, had no chunks in it, and it took quite a while for the symptoms to initially show themselves. We also thought it could be general sickness, maybe the flu or fever. Some of us had cold like symptoms, but he didn't really exhibit many besides throwing up, and his temperature wasn't too horrible. Lastly, I had thought of dehydration. This made the most sense to me. He had done nothing but drank Arizona tea throughout the entire trip. Lots of sugar, little water. He had pretty much dehydrated himself. Overall, at his request, we had brought him to a real hospital and they had cleared him, let him go home. But this all could have been mitigated in the field with proper nutritious food, good water, and what I'd recommend is electrolyte powder. This is commonly referred to as liquid IV. This is what would have saved him. Doesn't have any sugar, it's just a powder. Tastes decently fine. It's a pick-me-up, pretty much. This is what would have been correct for him to have after dehydration. When it comes to shelters, there is a line of succession that most campers and outdoorsmen follow. It usually starts at something like an RV, a camper, or a cabin, a hard shelter. And then if you're a hunter, it may go into a field tent. If you're a ultralighter or hippie, maybe a tent or a hammock. An A-frame or other tarp shelter also works as well. You can supplement your tarp for a poncho, making a poncho shelter. Or what I personally like is a bivy bag. Right here before you is my bivy system, my modular sleep system. I'll go into it really quickly. Has the winter lining bag, has the waterproof Gore-Tex cover, and it has the REI sleep mat I previously talked about. If I would change anything, I might get a underquilt instead of this, just for warmth and space. I know there's a brand called, I believe it's Enlightened Equipment that makes them. They're high quality, very compact, very lightweight. They're just expensive. And I would change out this sleeping pad just because I know the inflatable ones over time can deflate and they can get popped. I think that field tents can be used as main bases, and I think that they're a good idea. Maybe a cabin as well for that, or a camper. But in the field, I don't believe in tents unless it's a cold environment, just because they take too long to set up and take down. And depending on your scenario and your environment, hammocks may be able to be used, though they have a very weird footprint. You know, they're at, waist and eye level. They also have difficulty to get in and out of, and for some, they may take too long to set up and get down, but it depends. I think that makeshift shelters are great to use in harsh environment and harsh weather, whether that's from your poncho or your tarp, just to keep you out of the rain. But I truly think that bivy and mummy bags are good enough for you, as all you sacrifice is room while sleeping. You still have protection and heat around you. When it comes to sleep systems, the secret hack that I've found is using a sleeping mat. When I had first gotten one, I thought it was kind of an ultralight little hippie thing that I didn't need, but they seriously work insulating you from the ground. When you are building your shelter and your base, you should refer to the 5 Ds of security: deter, detect, deny, delay, and defend. You can deter an enemy by setting up your camp in a well-patrolled area that has signs such as no trespassing or mines, or you can simply camp in a bush or other hard-to-reach area. You can detect an enemy by using LPOPs, perimeter patrols, and perimeter alarms. You can deny an enemy with LPOPs, machine gun nests, and barbed wire. Delay an enemy with downed trees, setting up where they have to cross linear danger areas to get to you. You can also use trenches and barbed wire to delay them. And then lastly, you can defend against an enemy with pre-placed mines, ambushes, nests, and anything at your disposal. When you're setting up your shelter, you should make a bathroom. When you do it, it should be downstream of your location and a good distance away, so that if an animal or a person finds your excrement, it won't immediately lead them to you. As well, assuming that you aren't lugging an entire toilet to the field, you can tie yourself around a tree using a trucker's hitch so you can sit in midair and do your business. As well, you may want to carry toilet paper, a bidet, or baby wipes. In my butt pack, I personally carry a whole roll of toilet paper. A recurring theme from all other sections has been heat. You will need heat in the field, whether it's for boiling your water, cooking food, or keeping yourself warm and happy. Like I said, I carry an S-bit stove, my canteen cups, S-bit, sterno, a lighter, matches, and a ferro rod. This might seem like overkill, but I truly challenge you to start a fire in the dark of night when you're shaky and you want something to eat or you don't want to freeze to death. In regards to your personal body heat, you can use insulated jackets, wool blankets, sleeping pads, and sleeping bags to heat yourself up when you're resting, when you're in LPOPs, when you're patrolling, and in all other situations. Here's my wool blanket. It works well. The only issue with wool is it can be itchy. A saying that I learned last year that has truly changed how I've looked at heat is the expression comfortably cold. And it's the thought that when you step out into your movement that you should feel cold, not warm. If you're warm before you even step out and start moving, you are going to get hot and you can become a heat casualty. I take the comfortably cold mindset so extreme that during winter operations, I usually just wear a t-shirt with a snow camo cover over it because I know I'll only get cold when I stop for long periods of time. I still stay warm while moving. When it comes to heat management for your feet, I would recommend trying sock liners. This can even be as simple as a pair of socks. Those are ankle socks there. You can use mesh base layers to make sure that your body stays cool. Of course, you should know the difference between cotton and wool, how it traps heat and moisture, and just overall how to wear the proper thing so you don't overheat yourself. And so the last basic requirement for survival is air. There's not a lot to go into here, but I would say that when you arrive in your AO, spend time there sleeping and living to get accustomed to the air. Many people do this when they try 14ers. They will sleep in their location for one night, and that usually gets them accustomed to the elevation. If you're over 8,000 feet in elevation, you may get altitude sickness, the symptoms of which are headache, nausea, dizziness, and fatigue, and they can kill you if not properly addressed. Some people get more symptoms, it just depends. The only other thing that I could think of in regards to air was a gas mask. Some preppers, especially urban preppers, believe that you need a gas mask at all times. Though I could see them being useful against tear gas, I will say if you have one for CBRN protection, you do also want a mop suit and a decontamination method, assuming that you will ever use your gas mask and mop suit. Now that we're away from the basic necessities for survival, the main point that commenter had asked about was tools. The tools that I recommend for the field are saws, maybe bushcrafting augers, bayonets, multi-tools, shovels, hatchets, paracords, rifle cleaning kits, and a notepad. Okay, from the top down, the saw that I would recommend above anything else is a Silky Big Boy. There's a little bit of discussion there between what specific model and brand, but I've used a Silky Big Boy. I love them. They're decently lightweight. They're very sharp. You can compact them pretty well. They work very well in the field. I said a bushcrafting auger next. It depends on if you're setting up your trench, if you'll need one, but I think that they can be useful. I don't have any brand recommendation. I think Wayland makes decent ones. I would recommend heavily getting a bayonet. My main rifle cannot take my bayonet. Let me grab this off my fighting load, but I still have it. This is the Wartech bayonet. This is its holder. It's decently, I don't know, it's not really heavy at all. It can stay on very well. It has the wire cutters at the end, and on the other side, it has a sharpening stone. I think that this is good for self-defense, cutting wires, cutting bolts, cutting rope. Let's see what else I wrote. Cutting things open and breaking sticks. I mean, it's a knife. It is a fixed knife. It has many uses. I went on next to say a multi-tool. I have a random multi-tool. It's so random that you guys don't really need to see it. I mean, it's not a Leatherman, nothing fancy. I would just recommend to have scissors to cut cloth or rope, a corkscrew that you can use to thread into rope and undo rope, a flathead and Phillips screwdriver built into your multi-tool, and sometimes a file. File just for yourself, for your, hygiene. And what I will say is just make sure that it's a durable multi-tool. I would also carry a hex key or Allen wrench multi-tool for adjusting the optics and screws on my gear. Next I said was shovels. Any folding e-tool should work, even government issue ones. Some places you can find them from are Gerber, Glock, of course the military ones, and random Amazon brands. You saw me take it out earlier, but this right here is one of 2 e-tools that I've been testing. My buddy bought this for me for Christmas, and I want to see how well it works. It's roughly 2 pounds. I don't know. I've been trying to cut down on the weight, so I might get another one. I don't have any exact one that I'd recommend for now. If you do get, these tools, you might want to try ones with wooden handles, because if the handles break, you can replace them. One thing that I initially had forgotten in my video is hatchets. Hatchets can be useful for wood collection, wood processing, as well as sometimes breaching, as well as self-defense. I personally use a small Gerber hatchet. Any brand should work, just make sure that it's durable. Like I was saying earlier, you do want to carry paracord on yourself, whether that's for transporting people or objects, building shelters, transporting yourself, rappelling with them. Paracord is very useful, 550 pounds at least. I would also say that you can carry snare wire for your alarms and to trap game. I believe per, whatever size element you have, you don't need to carry too many. But what I do carry inside my pack is a rifle cleaning kit. This is for the M16. I don't think you should need more than 1 or 2. But this is just so you can fix any failures in your guns, fix any unsafe operating conditions, and just keep yourself going in the field. If your main rifle goes down, what use are you? Lastly, like I said, was notepads. If you are carrying a notepad, they can be useful for writing down METTC, salute, any mission essential things, as well as ranging, range cards. This is what I carry. Write in the Rain notepad with the Write in the Rain pen. It's useful. I mean, it allows you to write in the rain. All right, medical. Now you might be questioning to yourself, why did the scene change? I went through the editing process, I saw the original recording, and it cut off right about here. The audio kept going, but the video cut out. And so I will just give a short little overview on my medical kit here, and as well the electrical process for my radios, batteries, optics, all of that. And then it will cut back to the original recording. As you can see right here, this is how I store my rig, the LBV-88, and underneath is my Alice pack. What you're looking at right here is the left-hand side, the right-hand side. Right here is my backup medical. This is stuff that I keep right above my butt pack. That's not too important. And so in here, this is the Alice first aid kit. I have nothing inside the pouch itself, but I do have this small container. It's difficult to get open with gloves because it has a small clip. Inside here, I have some bandage, some electrical tape. I kept the electrical tape in here compared to my butt pack, just so a lot of this stuff wouldn't rattle around. As well, I like it in this little box. I think it's just neater. I have some bandages. I have spare iodine tablets for my water in here. Those might be being taken out soon. And overall, I have a majority of the standard loadout that this Alice first aid kit came with. If you want any information on that, you can find it online. I believe I also have it in my LBV-88 video. So this is pretty much my small boo-boo kit, nothing big. And so moving on, in a Vietnam era magazine pouch right here, on the side I have trauma shears. On the inside, I have gloves, gauze, a chest seal, I believe a trauma bandage, more gauze underneath. So that is my trauma kit right there. Things like mainly to treat gunshot wounds. And right here in this Alice magazine pouch, this is usually off my right hip. There's a tourniquet with a Sharpie right inside of it, right here. I do that so it's not getting dragged in the mud and dirt, because Velcro easily fails in the mud and dirt. As well, one thing that I have in this pouch, you might have seen its red tip, is a lip balm. That's for cold environments or if my lips get chapped. So that's about all that I have on my load-bearing vest. Right underneath it, my Alice pack. I've gone over a lot of this in previous videos. What I'm focusing on right now is this pouch. Inside, it is filled to the brim. This is primarily excess medical supplies if I need to treat others or if I run out on my own kit. It has stuff that I don't need immediately, such as burn spray for light burns, not heavy burns. Some antibiotics, eye creams, not eye creams, eye drops, stuff like that. We have wrapping bandage, gauze, lots of everything. As well, on the very inside, in a separate bag so it doesn't leak everywhere, I have foot powder in case I get my feet wet or I'm able to stop for a moment and do preventative maintenance on my feet. I found that very useful, but I'm glad that I keep it in my pack compared to on myself, or else I believe it could weigh me down too much, and it's something that I don't necessarily need immediately. A lot of that is backup equipment for later in the field, or something that I'm able to leave at my patrol base. If I were to change this kit at all, I may add another tourniquet. I would definitely add a splint, and I believe an NPA would also be very useful to add. With all of this kit, make sure that you are trained not only in a low stress but a high stress environment so that you can use this when needed. Power is something that I don't have entirely fleshed out in my kit. I'm assuming it'll be one of my next avenues that I'm going to look towards. The main things that I have on my kit that need power are, of course, my phone if I bring it, my watch if I bring it, my Baofeng radio if I bring it, my night vision if I bring it, my ear pro, and as well my laser aiming module and scope. So in total, that's at least one watch battery for my watch, one for my scope, one CR123A for my laser aiming module, one for my pistol, another watch battery for my pistol scope, a AA for my headset, as well as the proprietary Baofeng battery, and anything to charge my phone or other accessories like that. As well, if I'm recording, I'm going to need something for my GoPro batteries. What I'll tackle first is talking about Baofeng specifically, as this is a niche topic. This is the Baofeng UV9R. If you get a UV5R, you may be able to plug in USB-C to the back of your battery to charge it. If you do have a Baofeng radio, you can always buy extended batteries for your usage. One thing that I have that can charge CR123As, AA's, and AAA's is this cheap inverter I found off of Amazon. It has a barrel jack plug, and you can plug any rechargeable battery into it. Assuming you don't lug a generator into the field, you can use a battery bank like this one. This is my personal one that I've loved to use. It is trying to look for any sort of brand on here. It's cheap, is from Bass Pro Shops. That's all I can find. It says tough tested. On the other side, it says solar, tough tested. I can't find any specific markings on it for the brand. I like this because it can charge multiple devices at once. It has a standard 5-volt out here, a quick charge 3 output, USB-C in and out, and the old Android in and out. It can be charged by the sun, as it does have a solar panel. As well, what I found really useful is being able to hang it in a tree off of the carabiner. I can get that in a barrel jack plug to charge my battery for my night vision, to charge this battery pack, and in the past I've tried to use it to charge my Baofeng radios off of the stand. When it comes to where I keep batteries on my person, it's usually in my butt pack or in my Alice pack, usually in a simple Tupperware container. This is the last container that I used. I think I can use something smaller now, but that's what I've used. Another place to store them, if you have a newer style rifle, AR-15, especially with Hogue or Magpul furniture, you're able to store it in the rear grip, sometimes in the stock, and in my case, I can store it in my foregrip as well. If you want a well thought out video in regards to the subject, you should look in the description for a serviceman setup that I really do enjoy and I think is a great starting point, if not ending point. On to ammunition. It's not too big for this video, but I would recommend to use NATO ammunition. This is your 5.56, 308, and 9mm. Extras you can consider caching or stockpiling are 45 ACP, 22 LR, and 12 gauge. Anything that you think you could personally use, you can trade to other people, or stuff that you might loot. The same goes for your guns and gun parts. Use what's common. This is your Glock, maybe your SIG, your 1911. I know a lot of people, they have really exotic guns like the PSA Jackal, the Scar, and they're fun to use, and they may even be more efficient, but how often do you find other people patrolling with them, or with AKs, 7.62 by 39, 5.45, or 300 blackout? It's just stuff to consider. If you do cache in the field, make sure that you use waterproof containers. If you're trying to carry more ammo on your person, I would say to use stripper clips, which can be stored in your bandoliers, as seen here. There you go. Or extra magazines in your backpack. For ultra long-term sustainment, you may want to get into reloading. This can be done through stuff like the RCBS system, handheld lead loaders, any brand that you would like. Just make sure that you have all the equipment and you know how to do it. Footcare is our next subject. If you want to move, you got to take care of your feet. I want to do a video on boots a little later on, but all I can say for now from my experience is that Rothco makes bad boots. They're only good for replicas and imitations. I personally use a pair of redhead boots from Bass Pro Shops that work well, but if anything works for you, wear them. I do wear sock liners and darn tough socks to protect my feet, and you should be exchanging your socks every once in a while just to keep them fresh on your feet. When it comes to hygiene in the field, I'll move this off. This is my hygiene kit. It's a little heavy, but it's a stick of deodorant, conditioner, a bar of soap, and I believe that's about it. You don't need a lot out in the woods. I will say when you're buying stuff, just like what I had, make sure that it is non-scented so that other people can't smell you. As you'll know, if you're out in the field for a few days and you go home, your home will smell very different from what you remember. It's just out in the field, your nose gets adapted to smelling nature. Okay, so with all this being said, I know this sounds very difficult, and in many regards it is, but your sustainment is a big part of the battle. Within sustainment, make sure that you allocate some resources to morale. You'll find that you'll quickly stop fighting when you're cold, lonely, hungry, and depressed. You should leave yourself some snacks, some pick-me-up items, and reminders of why you should keep fighting. This is things like cards, your Bible, pictures, whatever you need. Within pictures, remember OPSEC. What you can try to do to distribute weight better is to make sure that you can carry all your essentials on you through line gear. Line gear simplified is your first, second, and third line. Your first line is purely survival gear. This is what stays on your person, in your pants, your boots, your jacket, and it's always there. For me personally, this is a space blanket, a compass, electrolyte powder, firearm, ladder, and notepad, bandage, and sometimes snacks. Your second line is mission gear. This is what's in your helmet, your rigs, and your assault packs. Your third line is your operational and sustainment gear. This is your long-term big packs, your sleep system, extra food, and everything else that you may need. In the description, I'll leave a link to Varus Teleca and their article on line gear. Alright guys, so now that I've given you a starting idea about sustainment, you may be thinking to yourself, how in the world am I going to carry all of this in my pack? My back's going to break and I'm going to be so slow. This is why having a team is great. Not only, of course, can you shoot, move, and communicate with them, but you can also divide the load. For example, one guy might have stuff for cooking food, the other guy has stuff for setting up your patrol base, another guy might have medical or ammo, and you may have another guy with your mission essential gear. Of course, you'll still need to carry your first line in case one of your teammates goes down or if you get separated, but this is where a pace plan is great. As well, like I've hinted at, you should set caches. Get permission from the landowner first, but set up caches, mark, and monitor them. I know this is a daunting task, but I want to give a small piece of advice before this video ends. Your mind will give up long before your body will. When I had started, I was roughly 40 pounds heavier than I am now, and my mind was beat before I even had hot spots on my feet. You can do this, whether it's for yourself, your family, your friends, the future generations before you, or for your God. But that's all for now. Leave comments on what you guys think. Feel free to subscribe. I know that in the future I would like to do in-depth videos on each subject I talked about in this video, but that's in time. Thank you guys, God bless, and good luck.